welcome to Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary podcast. This is your host, Scotty B. I would be hard-pressed to find a more genuine cosplayer, true to his craft and his character than my next guest. Whether it's a meme or a photo shoot, he puts himself into everything he does, and everything he does makes all the difference. He has been featured in the Cosplay Realm magazine, Pop Insider. He's a member of the New York Avengers. He's worked with the 9 cosplayers and the Justice League of Nashville. Please welcome the cosplay outlaw himself, Dom Charland.
Hey everybody, hey Scott, happy to be here.
Hey, no, it's great to have you on the show. I've heard a lot of good things about you. I'm really excited to have you on. I've got a few things to ask you. And what I usually like to start with is your origin story in cosplay and how you got everything started. I know that there were a lot of Spider-Man shots that came out first on Instagram, probably going back to 2016. You were introduced to much of that back then by Cosplay Nay, who you can find on Instagram and YouTube. He's a really cool guy. But really, I think what you said back then was you wish you had more reasons to go out and make this suit matter. So tell me about how you got started and how you made things matter with the Spider-Man suit.
I was a member of the Replica Prop Forum, going way back, and at some point there was a gentleman named Or Haydar who is more popularly known as Gunhead Design today. He designed the original Ultimate Spider-Man sublimation suit. And there was a gentleman named Zachary Luna on the Luna Man on the RPF forums who put the suit together for the first time, put a lot of work into it. And for those of you old school webheads who remember those days, those suits were pricey. There was a lot of work to get them. It wasn't like you could go and just buy it for $100 like you can now. And I was inspired by that build, so I went and I made a clone of that suit and I took it out for the first time at New York Comic Con, and I loved it. But that's a perfect quote. You want to give more reason to make the suit matter. So I had been struggling. I live on Long Island, which is about 30 miles outside of New York City, which in New York terms is about 12 hours outside. And I met Cosplay Nay at a convention once. It was funny because we were both suited up and we had interacted a lot on some Facebook groups, but we had come in from outside and our lenses fogged up, so we didn't know who each other was. And then later on, when pictures were posted, we were like, "Oh, that was you." And he was kind of like a gateway drug into meeting other people in the cosplay community, and then obviously networking from there. And as far as making the suit matter, it's funny, someone asked me this question yesterday on a live. The best part about being a Spider-Man cosplayer, and I would say the same thing goes to a Black Panther cosplayer, a Captain Marvel cosplayer, a Wonder Woman cosplayer, a Batman cosplayer, is that kids instantly recognize you and they just beeline to you. They completely suspend all disbelief. I don't know if it's because of the full mask or what. But there's no greater feeling. Although I have other cosplays that I prefer, there is no better feeling than being a Spider-Man cosplayer and seeing that kid run up to you. It is unparalleled emotion.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I mean, and it is, I guess, just kind of a rush when you go to the show. You never know what to expect. Like at Holmat, it was pretty chill. Like there weren't a lot of people like just rushing up to you and going, "Oh, I really like this. Can we get pictures?" Not too much of that. I think it happens a lot at New York Comic Con. But when you went to your first con and you did have people kind of rushing up to you, was it strange at first, or was it you were just like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing. I love this."
There was a small percentage of what is happening and a big percentage of this is what I wanted to do. And back then, I didn't know the photo shoots were a thing. I didn't know that cosplay photography was a thing, that really Instagram was a thing at all. That first time I wore the suit, my brother put together a Kraven the Hunter, and literally we just did the Elmer Fudd with Bugs Bunny walking behind him. He was walking and he has no idea that Bugs Bunny is right behind him. We did it with Kraven and Spider-Man right behind him. It just throughout the entire convention had so much fun. And that caused me to get spoiled and spend way too much of my life and way too much money on cosplay instead of essentials like food and toilet paper.
And you truly do make every build your own. Each of your cosplays, it's just you nail it so much on the detail. Whether we're talking about Robin or whether we're talking about Star-Lord or Green Lantern, or Aquaman. I did hear a little bit about Aquaman and how painstaking that armor was. So I had my hats off, even though I'm not going to take my hat off because my earphones are over it. But
Pain is
hats
the
off.
word. There was a lot of pain.
um, but I guess what does it mean to make the costume your own? So, I mean, you're buying a few things online, but it does sound like every time you build something, you go out of your way to make sure that it looks authentic and it has the right feel to it, and that you're really in character.
Um, there was there's a concept out there that there's a glass ceiling for male cosplayers where they can only get so far. And that cosplay and Instagram in general is a woman's game. So for male cosplayers, you can't just buy it off the internet and think it's going to do the trick. So you have to kind of put in that extra effort to really make it individual. A lot of the base suits and the base props that you can buy, um, guys everywhere are buying it. So how do you take that build and make it your own? So in the case of Aquaman, I had ordered the dye subsuit, and I am not Jason Momoa by any means or stretch of the imagination. So I said, okay, well, I could go for the comic look, but how do I make it look a little bit more realistic than just wearing a spandex suit? And I don't know where the idea to do scale mail came from. I'd seen tutorials for a couple of years now, and I one night went on Etsy and saw that it was like 100 scales for $4.50. And then 2 weeks later, as I was cursing my name and cursing my belief system, I had finished putting it together, and I didn't realize the reaction I would get from people out of it. Because a lot of people came up to me and said, "Oh, that's so cool," and then they realized it was actually aluminum, and they kind of had this look like where that come from. A couple people asked me where I bought it, and that made me feel really cool. Like, where did you buy this? I made it. Like just a cool feeling. And I think that a key to cosplaying is to do what makes you happy and do what makes you feel proud. You mentioned Star-Lord. When I first started doing Star-Lord, I tried to get as many accurate things as possible. Um, and then as time has gone by and the look has evolved, I wear probably half the cosplay and I have the other half in the closet because it's just the jacket, the pants, the blasters. It's just the iconic pieces.
Mhm.
um, and you worry a lot less about the accuracy and a lot more about the character. And I think that if you look at comic books in general, every artist, every colorist, every penciler that draws a character makes it their own in some way. So I would say to cosplayers out there, stop worrying so much about the accuracy and start just make it your own, and you'll have a bigger sense of pride, and you'll be a little bit more unique compared to everyone else that's out there.
That's a great message. And it's true because the more you do, the more you put into it yourself, the better you feel about it. And I think the more comfortable you just are in it, and it's easier to ask questions or answer questions, not ask them. Um,
100%.
but with Star Lord, now that was the suit that you wore. I think it was Cosplay Around magazine that you did a huge group shoot and put all of that together. And you've done so many just amazing shoots. You've worked with some great photographers. I'll name a couple, and I'll probably get all the pronunciation wrong. Arturo Diachi, Jeff Georges, Grayson Shine, JMW, and It Is Cosplay. That's just to name a couple of people that you've worked with over the last couple of years. Would you like to talk about one of your recent favorite shoots, or even the shoot that you did for the magazine, and what went
um,
into putting all of that together?
sure. So I'm going to backtrack. The first real shoot I ever did, I think, was with Arturo Daichi, who, for those of you who don't know, 100 years ago, before I went out of business, I used to run the Toys R Us in Bronx Terminal, and Arturo was a bike assembler that worked for me, and happened to just see each other's Instagrams, and then one day we went and hung out and did this crazy Spider-Man shoot. We did in a couple of different locations that probably weren't necessarily public access. I'll put it to you that way. The first large organized shoot that I ever did, though, on a bigger scale, was the Jeffrey George's shoot with JS Cosplay Art. At the time, it was JS Cosplay Photography, where he organized a at the time leading into Infinity War cover, and that ended up on the cover of Cosplay World magazine. I was just a participant at that point. Like, I literally was invited. In fact, Cosplay Nate called me one day and said, "I need you to do me a favor. Just stop cutting your hair for like the next 4 months," because he had someone else that was going to do Star Lord, and they backed out. So the first variation I did of Star Lord was a film jacket. It wasn't really accurate at all. I did get a very high quality helmet from Solo Roboto, which I still have. And that was the first like big shoot that I did. It's just one pose, just me sitting here with the guns going pew pew, and that's it. But it was a great experience to bring all those people together. And unfortunately, things like that are addictive. That was a controlled shoot in a studio. The May 4th shoot at Governor's Island was out of control. It was an out of control shoot, I will say. A ton of work from everyone that was involved, and it's difficult to kind of manage on that level when you have that many people. But I will tell you that most recently, the favorite shoots that I have are some of the smaller ones, some of the smaller group shots. I love when I get a message from Francisco from Grace and Shine saying, "What do you think about this?" Because I know it's going to be ridiculous. I know it's going to be a great concept with great people. I think where a lot of people go wrong is that they say, "I want to do a shoot," and they don't know how to get there. They have an end result, but they don't know what their intention is. They just want to throw people together in a room, and that's cool. But I think something that I've learned from organizing big shoots is you have to have an end result you want to get to, and then you have to come up with what you want to accomplish first, nail all that out, and then start inviting people. Everyone's knee jerk is, let's do the shoot, throw 20 people in a group chat. How do we figure it out? And it makes it very, very difficult to manage. It's a lot easier. Think about when you try to make reservations for dinner. If you have 10 friends you want to get together for dinner, well, where are we going to go? Well, what about this place? What about that place? Everyone kind of has an opinion, as opposed to, hey guys, we're going out on this night and this is where we're going and we're going to be here at this time. It's a lot easier to get people's buy-in. So I think something that I've learned over the couple of years of doing this is come up with your shoot, get your photographer, figure out the venue, figure out the date, and then invite people, because you'll have a much higher success rate.
I guess it has its rewards, and it is a little bit addictive, but it's also it can be very frustrating. But you've worked with many groups. I will name a couple again. It just it was the Cosplay Outlaws, the Nine, and I was so disappointed I missed your dance off with squad goals.
I
With the
didn't go,
Nine.
so I made out on that deal.
They
I made out on that
forfeit.
deal.
Yeah, I was so excited. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be epic. Everybody from the Nine, everybody from Squaggles. You're a New York Avenger. You've worked with Justice League Nashville.
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
and every time you team up, it's always amazing work. I mean, so much goes into the coordination, but the result is always fantastic, whether it's a photo shoot or whether it's a charity event that you're putting together. If you wouldn't mind just talking about what goes into coordinating a charity event with a group like that, and just how a group comes together. A photo shoot's one thing, but now working with a venue and working with an organization, that's a completely different level of planning.
So with an organization or a charity event, it's much, much different, because they come to you with an expectation. This is the date, this is the venue, this is what we expect. So you have to kind of, number one, you have to humble yourself and say, can we realistically do this or not? Because you don't want to commit to something and then underdeliver. You don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. So, the default answer usually, great idea, would love to be a part of it. Give me some time to see who I have available that day. Is there anyone that you specifically want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In the case of charity events too, there's a lot of people that'll go on Instagram and say, hey, I have a Captain America cosplay. I'd love to be a part of the New York Avengers. Cool, but we don't know anything about you, and we don't know if you're good with kids. We don't know X, Y, and Z, right? So kind of want to vet people out to make sure that people that, one, will represent the character 100%, because a 9-year-old doesn't know that you're not Spider-Man, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? You want to try and represent the character to the best of the ability to what to what they represent, to what they mean to a kid. If you say to a kid, Batman's coming, and they show up with like the Party City mask that only covers this part of their face, you know what I mean? And John and Batman onesie from Target, it's disappointing to a little kid. So not from a perspective of being elitist, but from a perspective of doing right by the kid who's, that could be their make-a-wish, right?
Yeah.
So on top of that, you have to maintain the utmost professional attitude at all times. You have to make sure that you represent yourself and others well, and you have to be able to be interactive and be fun. You can't be afraid of kids. If you look at some of the people that we worked with, Samantha's Cosplay, Lovey Lee from Lovey Lee Official, Codename Citadel, Renee, Raina Cosplay, who does Thanos and Bumblebee and Batman and all these other amazing characters. These are people that are not afraid to get down and dirty and interact with kids. Cosplay Wade and Power Trip Cosplay are probably the two best Deadpools that I've ever met on the planet outside of Ryan Reynolds himself. I watched I watched Power Trip Cosplay get physically assaulted by like 9 kids at a birthday party because Nick Fury said to him, "Take out Deadpool" or something like that, and he just ran with it.
Oh
Being
man.
100% devoted to your character, because this might be some of these kids' last shots, and being humble. You know that when you do these events, you're not getting paid. There's no W-2 for cosplay. You don't, maybe they reimburse you on the parking, maybe if you're lucky, if it's a business. But other than that,
Sure.
you have to be able to get people to commit to doing things with no promise of payment or reward other than the emotion. And the emotion in and of itself can be difficult. Seeing some of these kids can truly exhaust you emotionally. So you have to be able to maintain your composure, which is tough, when you see some of these kids. So I will tell you that the difference between doing a cosplay photo shoot for fun and doing a charity event for a purpose, is there. It's baseball and football. It's two completely different sports.
So the New York Avengers, you've said that the New York Avengers are a group of like-minded friends who come together to celebrate a hobby and share it with kids who need. And it's really not about the likes and the follows. It's about giving back. There's no budget, and we've already kind of talked about that. You're lucky if you get parking, and you absolutely come together on so many different projects. How do you keep it going? And what can you tell me about the responses that you get from the community when you all come together?
Um, how do you keep it going? It's especially tough considering that the climate that we're in and what we're going through now as a nation, right? Because you have X amount of events planned, and um, they all kind of come crashing down, as which is the right thing to do, obviously, in this climate
Mhm.
right now. What's going on? Um, it has challenges. It has its challenges. The roster evolves as people gain interest, lose interest, go on to do other things. I would say the key is just maintaining great relationships. Maintaining this started as a group of friends first, and as you network, you meet more friends and more friends and more friends. And as people go on and they, get married and have kids, or go on to be TikTok celebrities or whatever else they want to do, it's hard to kind of stay humble and keep a group of people that want to remain humble and do the same thing. I will tell you that the key is just remaining friends, talking every day. Oh, I should put this on vibrate. Um, I think I just broke the camera. Okay, there we go.
You're
Keep
good.
remaining friends, talking every day, being there for each other. If you don't think that we don't talk every day, and it's a lot of it is nonsense, um, but being there to see, to talk through as somebody's going through a job change or someone is 3D printing something for a future cosplay, and just being there in general, especially this time, at this time, helps you to maintain those strong friendships. And listen, inspired people want to remain inspired, so they're going to want to continue to do things. So what I will tell you is the way you keep it going is, again, remain humble, stay close to keep your circle close to you, and be true to yourself, and people will want to continue to work with you.
That's perfect. And just my personal observation when I do see different YouTube videos or anything else that pops up for the New York Avengers, one thing that I notice is you handle it like a cast of a show. That there's almost a bond when you all come on and you start answering questions together for panel. It feels a lot like it would if you had like a reunited cast, like let's say Firefly or something like that. You get everybody up there,
Perfect
and
example.
there's just
Perfect example.
such good chemistry, and there's history I think that makes it a lot more interesting, and I certainly hope that you do. I hope they still have cons after all of this stuff is over with. I hope they don't decide that nobody can ever gather ever again. But um, I do hope that you continue to do New York Comic Con for sure. I would love to see all the New York Avengers on a panel there
Well, it's funny.
someday
You
soon.
used that example as someone who went to the Firefly reunion panel at San Diego. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And as an aside, I've never seen the Firefly reunion came out of their panel at the same time that the Doctor Who reunion came out of their panel, and it was like West Side Story with two opposing gangs full of fezzes and brown coats. Um, but when we did the panel New York Comic Con, and Samantha will tell you, and Danny will tell you that I have a bad habit of doing things and not telling them until afterwards. So when I got the email about panel submissions, I brewed up a couple of ideas and bounced them off of a couple people, and then I just applied. And my concept was I wanted to do a panel for people because cosplaying is scary when you do it for the first time. And
Mhm.
I wanted to do a panel where people could be interactive and ask a lot of questions. People that would show up buying a Marvel Legends Hasbro helmet and just wear a T-shirt, or people that wanted to get into foam building, people that wanted to get into this. So we got approved for the panel, and I was like, cool. Now what do I do? So when I filled the panel, I kind of went through the roster and I said, okay, well, these two people are great making everything by hand. These two people are great using a mixture of Amazon and then making things by hand. These two people are great at sourcing professionally made cosplays at a high level. These two people are great at seeing an end result and figuring out how to get there and engineering it. So I filled the table with a variety of talents and talent levels and strategies. And what we did was we had a lot of questions, and if someone asked a question that I thought was a great question, I literally had someone from the panel walk down and spend time with them on a one-on-one. There was a kid who had a question about Naruto, and I had Jake there, and I don't call it the Kakashi wig anymore. I call it the Jake wig, and sent the kid right over and spent him and the kid's dad spent maybe 15 minutes talking during the panel at the end of the table. I think that it's boring to sit there and listen to people talk, but if you have a conversation with someone, that means so much more. So the key was we had not only people at the table, we had people in the audience, and somebody asked a couple questions, and I was like, Raf, can you go over and address this? So it was more of an interactive. I wish that I had been better prepared with media of some kind. I work a 50-hour-a-week job, so I believe that day was whatever happened at work was like intense, and I couldn't get out on time, and I literally ran out of work, blew every stop sign, got on the train, dived in the doors like Indiana Jones, got to New York Comic Con. I didn't even have time to put in a cosplay. I ran the panel in my work clothes, which was like a button down and khakis. Um, I was cosplaying the CEO of Comic Con that day. And as I walked up the podium, I was like, I hope we can pull this together. But the great thing is, like you said, like a family, we all knew our roles and we all knew what we were there for, and we all kind of came together and we all kind of interacted. And I just really acted as a moderator, kind of keep people moving, um, to keep it interactive. And it was funny because it's probably sat 200 people there. And when we walked up, there was a lot of people in chairs. And then the panel before us ended, and they kind of kept sitting there. And I was like, oh, okay, these people are just sitting here because it's a seating area. By the time the panel was done, every seat was filled, and there was like two rows of people around them. And I was like, oh, they
Wow.
must be for the next panel. The panel ended, and they all stood up and they all left. And I was like, holy, they were here for us. And we weren't all even in cosplays. Like there were some people in cosplay, some people were casual that day. It was a cool experience. And to answer your question, um, the email about panel submissions went out yesterday, so I'm already starting working on the submission for this year's panel. Hopefully we get it. Hopefully cons happen. If not, I'm just going to rent out a parking garage and we'll have it in a parking garage somewhere.
Either way, I would love to attend. I sure hope I can. It'd be great to see all of you do your thing live, and just see that chemistry for real. For what it is. I don't know. Does anyone clap? Would that be bad? Like, I don't know. Um, it's just, well, you guys are so cool together. Like, really, it really is. Like, it's hard to find a group that really does so much. And I think that just as far as the audience goes, when you see it in action, like the level of appreciation that you have for everything that this group goes up so much. Like it's you think of cosplays, yeah, people going around and trying to build their Instagram followings, and that's kind of the stereotype for cosplay in general. I think that's what
Yep, it is.
mainstream people think is like, okay, so they're dressing up because they want to do modeling and they want to kind of build their audience. But I do, to wrap up the show, I have three questions that I asked. Two of them are a little bit goofy, and then one is kind of a serious question that I ask everyone. So my first question for you here at the end is, what was it like to meet Mark Hamill?
Okay. Again, dressed as Spider-Man. Hopefully your listeners don't listen to what I'm saying and take it literally. So rule number one, Comic-Con is act like you're supposed to be there. Comic-Con is such a crazy place and so many things are going on. So you just act like you're supposed to be there. 90% of the time people just assume you're supposed to be there. So I was dressed as Spider-Man, and Mark Hamill was appearing at the Alex Ross booth. The Alex Ross booth is a 4-wall room, and the front wall is all glass. And like many of the rooms, it has a staircase that goes down in the basement. That's where they bring their celebrities. So there was a door off to the side, and I saw this massive line. I was like, I wonder what that's for. And unfortunately, they brought Mark Hamill up before they had like closed the curtain. So everyone saw Mark Hamill in this giant picture window that was 15 feet long, rushed it. Then they tried to merge into the line, and I don't know what happened, but I somehow ended up between the crowd and the line because people started arguing back and forth. And I settled the argument as Spider-Man. And before you know it, they opened the door and they said, "All right, it's your turn." And I walked in, and Mark Hamill was there, and he said, he goes, "Oh my God, finally someone that I want to actually see during this con." And I got to talk to him for like 5 minutes. I couldn't even take the mask off because I had the full reverse hood, the face shell, and everything like that. A lot of people were like, "Why don't you take your mask off?" And I was like, "Because he didn't care about meeting me. He just wanted to meet Spider-Man." So he took selfies and everything like that. And I did get to have 5 minutes with him, and I said, I have to thank you for everything that you've ever done. There's not enough words, there's not enough time to thank you, but everything positive that anyone has ever said to you, just assume that I said it really inspirationally just now. And he goes, "Man, you really are Spider-Man. You're terrible at this." And I said thanks, and walked away. And it was one of those moments that you don't expect to ever happen. And it happened. So yeah, I have no other words. I'm still in shock that it even happened today. So many of my friends hate me for that moment.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you were right place, right time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my next question for you is, the only season of Agents of Shield is the Ghost Rider season. Agree or disagree?
I mean, if we're talking about outside of the first season, even the first season, there was a lot of missed opportunities, I think, as they try to find their way. I will tell you that I would gladly any day watch a YouTube video of all the Ghost Rider clips in order. I mean, they did such a great job with Robbie Reyes. And then the payoff of when they show his origin and you see what you assume to be Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch, you're not really sure which. It's in the city, so I'm hoping it's Danny Ketch. But when you see that moment of the classic original Ghost Rider, um, it was something that I had hoped to see more of. And then when he came back at the end of the season, through the portal, and you saw that he returned, like it was like an all hell moment, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I would agree. I would say that they spent a lot of time setting things up that didn't necessarily pay out. I think it's a great show, great cast. I've met Coulson a number of times. And I will tell you that I'm thankful for what they did. I think that at some point they lost their way. I don't know if it's any of the internal struggle with Disney Television and Disney whatever, all that stuff you read about on the internet that no one can corroborate. It's all hearsay. But the short answer is yes. The short answer is yes, and I would love to see Gabriel Luna come back as Ghost Rider again.
Oh yeah, I could see that as just like a standalone. It
Yeah,
was as good as any of the Netflix series with him in it. I just thought Ghost Rider was like, yeah, they're how are they going to top this next season? And well, I watched the next season and
Field in Space.
it was okay.
Yeah, it was just okay. It was okay. You kind of could see the time travel element of it very early on. I would love to see Ghost Rider on the big screen. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be Gabriel Luna. It could be. I mean, listen, I think Bradley Cooper would make an amazing Ghost Rider. There's so many actors out there that would make a great Johnny Blaze or a great Danny Ketch. I think that it is an untapped resource. And what's exciting for me is that they explored it once already and it was really well received. So you have to think that they data mined that and said, okay, how can we do this again on the big screen?
Yeah, yeah, or just another series or another made for Disney Plus movie,
Mhm.
because they put a lot of quality into Mandalorian and the other shows that they're putting out there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that come along.
Yeah, I
That'd
am very
be
excited for
really cool.
I'm very excited for all the Disney Plus shows. For those of you who know the lore and know about U.S. Agent becoming Captain America, etc., when you saw those photos of Captain America and he looks generic and just not right, I was like, this is perfect. That's exactly what he's supposed to look like, an off-brand Captain America. You're supposed to not like this. You're supposed to not like him. And I think that just in a little bit that we've seen in trailers, Marvel has gotten so smart in what they don't show you in trailers to make you just more thirsty. I've got full faith that whatever comes next, um, I really think that these shows are to extend the story and to continue telling stories while they figure out what comes next, whether it's negotiating rights or whatever. Again, I don't know. It's all hearsay, but I think at the end of the day, Infinity War and Endgame ended a story but started a saga, if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, I think they did such an unbelievable job. I don't know if it was by accident when they started because Infinity Gems came along later, but the way that they wove everything together, the continuity, there's never been anything like it. It's too bad James Bond movies didn't have that kind of continuity, but and if they can do it again, that would be really cool, especially if they start with things like Eternals and they kind of weave it into either like a Secret Wars or something like that. I've been waiting
Right.
for Secret Wars forever.
Secret Wars or some Annihilation Wave, any of the cosmic
Mm.
storylines. I was a huge Guardians fan before the movie came out, and the payoff that we got as Guardians fans when that movie came out and lived up to the expectations. I have full faith in what they're going to do next.
It will be nothing short of fabulous, I sure hope. So I have one last question for you, if
Okay.
you're ready,
Hmm.
and it is simply this: what would you like your impact on the world to be?
Something I find myself saying a lot recently is, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay." Um, and if there was a way for me to convey that to anyone and have them truly believe it, because I think that between what's going on, people's personal anxiety, conflicting political views, conflicting legislature, everything that's out there today, there's a lot that we didn't have to deal with 10 years ago. And the problem with readily available information at a moment's notice is that it's scary, and not everyone is equipped to handle that. And not everyone's equipped to kind of weed through that on their day-to-day life. And a lot of people let it affect them in a way that is scary. So if there was one thing that my life could mean, it would be for people to know that at the end of the day, it's all going to be okay.
And that's really all you can hope for. So hopefully everything gets better.
Yep.
Where can we find you and how can we support you, Dom?
You can find me on Instagram at Dom Charland, DomCharland. I think I'm on Twitter as the same thing, maybe. No, I'm on Twitter as Ignitus, Igniitus, I think. I don't know. But I'm on Instagram. Find me. There's a link tree probably. I don't know. That has all my socials on there. But that's really it. Instagram, or email me at domsharland@gmail.com. Um, Other than that, if you can get to a rooftop and light up like a beacon in the sky with my face on it, I would easily answer.
It'll be a project for me to work on.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Dom. All the stories that you shared, all of your insights. Um, we here at the show appreciate you and what you do. Was really excited that you wanted to come on and share all of this with us and with the audience. So my thanks to you, and certainly the show is your friend. You know anything and everything as things go on. We'll be here in the background for you.
Awesome, man.
And
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me. It really means a lot. You've had a lot of people on here that mean something and matter, and for you to invite me made me feel very, very appreciative. So thank you so much. Hopefully we see you at New York Comic Con. We'll find a way to get you here. It's a good time. Just take a lot of Xanax. It's a little crowded.
Oh yeah, no problem. We're always we come prepared, and I'll
Awesome.
probably have some things to give away too. I hope while I'm there.
Awesome.
But as we close the show, this is Scotty B for Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary podcast, talking to Dom Charland. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Bye bye.